This ZZR1400 is considered by most to be a sport bike, but in reality you can use this thing for touring and for pillion riding, so it kind of makes it more of a sports tourer. And in today's video that's exactly what we're going to talk about, why this ZZR1400 is great as a sport bike, but it's also great for touring and pillion riding. Let's get to it. Alright, so as mentioned in the intro, this machine is really good for pillion riding and for touring with, apart from when it's got bloody flies on it. And the wife does actually have legs. In the intro she was standing behind the bike. I didn't realise that she had no legs, it was just a torso that had a helmet. But anyway, so what we're going to do, we're going to jump on the bike, and between myself and the wife we're going to discuss why this thing is really good for touring and why it's really good for pillion riding. Right, you ready? Shall we go?
I'm ready.
Let's go for a ride. Alright. I mean, we've parked it on grass, which probably isn't the best idea in the world. Alright, that camera's recording. Okay, right, what I'll do, I'll just move this out a little bit. You okay?
Yeah.
What's up?
Did you fart?
No.
Oh, it looked like you moved a fart.
Hey? No, I actually didn't. Are you quite comfortable there, missus?
I'm so comfortable.
Good. It's really funny because when I looked at buying this bike, I think I mentioned before, we looked at a 1000 SX from Kawi as well, and yeah, we found that the seats were really awful. Yeah, you really didn't like it, did you?
No. No, it was really narrow,
Yeah.
quite hard, and also it was quite a bit higher than the rider, and I didn't find that very comfortable. Or
see, that's funny because I would have thought you'd be higher on this bike than on the S1000 SX.
no, I think I was higher on that. My knees are definitely a lot higher than they are on this, whereas this is quite comfortable and I can actually enjoy the ride without worrying that I'm going to fall off because the seat's too small.
Yeah, this seat is like a sofa, isn't it?
Yeah, it's so big.
Okay, it's not Goldwing size, but
No.
it's yeah, it's a nice comfy seat, I have to say.
It's big enough that I'm not sitting on top of you.
Yeah, exactly, and you've got plenty of room as well.
Oh yeah.
To move backwards and forwards.
Yeah, because you inevitably slip forward anyway.
Yeah.
But I've got so much room behind me still. It's quite nice.
Just enjoying the ride, sorry. What do you find of, what do you think of the power? Because 210 horsepower out of this is not a small amount of horsepower, and I've only shown it to you once, haven't I?
Yeah.
All the horses.
What it can do. Yeah. I don't know how to answer that.
Well, it's quite funny because you think a bike like this with that much torque and that much horsepower, that it would be really jumpy and it would be kind of on-off power, and that's actually not true whatsoever.
It's quite smooth.
With this motorcycle I can roll on the power really gently, and I can be really controlled in the amount of power that I give it.
I don't have that feeling that I'm going to be thrown off the back when you do pull the throttle back either.
Well, that's actually a good point to mention, because on the ER6 that I had, we did have a top box on that one, and you benefited quite a lot from that top box, didn't you?
Yeah, massively.
Whereas on this bike we don't have a top box, mainly because of storage. Where I park this bike at night, it's it won't fit with a top box in it, which is unfortunate, but that's kind of how it goes, really. I would like to have a house with a garage, but we don't have a garage. We have like a shed that we use as a garage. So, but yeah, it has quite a lot of power, but it's not like the pillion experiences all of that power. You can ride this thing so gently and so nicely. You can cruise with it really easily, and it's quite unique, I think, for a big bike like this. I mean, I can't really refer to a Hayabusa. We haven't been on a Hayabusa together, so I can't really say from that point of view. And the Hayabusa does look more like a sport bike than this, I think. And I don't know, it looks more aggressive, the seating position as well. I'm not sure, but yeah, it makes a really, really good tourer. And the funny thing is, when you look at it at first glance, you wouldn't have thought that. This bike's got the reputation for all sorts of power, loads of torque, you know, kind of that straight line speed. But it is a gentle giant. You can really ride this bike with finesse, and you can ride it gently, which is quite important, because if you've got someone on the back of it that isn't all that confident in riding pillion on a motorcycle, you need to be able to demonstrate that you can ride the bike with you know, with ease and confidence, but also ride it with responsibility in mind. You're not gunning it everywhere. And of course, if the pillion is like, yeah, I want to feel some of the power, then yeah, you can get them to hold on to you, and you can show them the power that the bike has. But yeah, it's really, really good for just cruising with, and I'm sure a lot of ZZR owners will feel the same. You can put on some serious miles on this bike. Riding for 100 miles or so is not unheard of on this bike. Hey, what's the maximum that we've done together?
This bike?
Yeah, on this bike. It's like 50 miles?
Something like that, yeah.
50 miles. And for me, it's really, really easy, especially on roads like these, where they're really chill. No motorways, of course. Motorways are boring. Yeah, makes a really, really good tourer. The seating position isn't massively aggressive. It is perhaps a little bit more aggressive than you might find on some other motorcycles, but it's not aggressive, so aggressive that you'll be aching a lot. Having said that, if the pillion rider puts a load of their body weight onto your back when you're braking and stuff, well, yeah, you're certainly going to feel that in your wrists and in your back. But I don't know, I mean, that kind of riding is mainly in the cities, I suppose. City riding, and like we've discussed before, this bike isn't really suited for city riding. It does have a heavy clutch. It does have weight behind it, so trying to lug it around slow corners and stuff like that can be an absolute pain. But yeah, those of you that buy a kind of bike like this, you're not going to be riding it in the city all that much, at least I'd hope not anyway. But anyway, enough about what I feel of pillion riding on this bike and touring on it. What do you think, Mrs.?
Yeah, I like it. I think the feet pegs are quite nice and not too high. The one thing I wouldn't want is having my knees by my ears.
It's having what, sorry?
My knees by my ears.
See, from here it sounds like you're saying your knees by your ears.
That's what I'm saying. I wouldn't want my knees so high that I feel like
I'm getting confused because
half, you know?
it sounded like you said that you would like that. And I'm
no.
like, hang on, what?
No, I wouldn't want that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to feel doubled over because I think it'd be uncomfortable for longer riding.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a comfortable ride. As we've already said, the seat is fairly generous.
Yeah.
There's a lot of it. The bar that you hold on to is at the back. There's only one to hold on to at the back, which I personally prefer one either side, but hey ho, I'm not fussy.
Well, and I suppose as well when you're holding a backpack, which is what you got right now, you've got our camera equipment on your back.
Yeah.
Having both your hands behind you doesn't really help.
No, not really.
The bag straps might slip down. So yeah, that is kind of annoying that the pillion handle is at the back of the bike and there's only one. I mean, let's compare to the ER6, because you've had experience riding pillion on this bike with me, and you've had experience riding the ER6 with me as pillion.
Yeah.
Like, when you compare the two, kind of what are the pros and cons between this bike and the ER6 and vice versa?
Yeah, so the ER6 had obviously the top box, which is an addition, so I can't really count that. But it also had the handrails on the side, which
But do you prefer having the top box though?
Only because I could lean against it.
Yeah.
That was just my safety net, but at that point I'd only been a pillion very early on, so I was still very nervous in myself anyway.
Yeah.
Whereas now I know how to move with the bike and what I need to do for myself, so you know, I can live with it, I can live without it. I do prefer the handrails on the side, which the ER6 had.
Yeah.
The feet I think were quite similar, thinking about it from what I remember. I don't think one was particularly higher or lower than the other.
No, I think this seat is bigger though.
The pegs though.
A physically larger seat, but do you think the pegs are higher?
No, that's what I'm saying. I don't think the pegs were, I don't think they're much different.
Oh, okay.
The seat though, the seat is bigger, it's wider and longer.
Yeah.
It's definitely softer, I think.
Really? Than the ER6 seat?
I think so, yeah.
I thought that seat was really comfy. I mean, I think they're both made from the same material.
Yeah, no, it was comfortable, but because this one's bigger, I feel like I've got more room, which makes me feel more comfortable. You know, as I said, I'm not on top of you. There's still a fair amount of room between us right now.
See, because I feel like you were closer to me physically on the seat on the ER6 than you are now.
Yeah, I was.
And I think that is one thing actually that you could say is beneficial about having separated seats. And I know the ER6 had a single seat, and I mean when I say that I mean one large seat. It's not separate. Whereas on the 1000 SX that we test rode, the seats were separate.
Yeah.
On that motorcycle, but you're saying you didn't like that aspect of that. I mean, if you take the comfort of the seat away out of the equation, would you prefer it like that, or would you prefer it like this, where it's one big seat?
I prefer it like this for sure.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting. Because I think from a rider's perspective, they'd actually prefer it if the seats were separate.
The thing is, when the seats are separate, from my limited experience of being on a pillion, the pillion seat is much higher.
Yeah.
Which I don't enjoy.
Yeah, you like me being a windshield for you, don't you?
I do indeed, yeah. But I also like the feeling that I'm not going to bump heads with you.
Well, and that's the thing though. If your seat is higher, physically higher up, then there's less chance of that happening.
I think I was more conscious of it happening though on the bike where it was higher.
All right, okay, that's interesting. Because I would have thought it'd be the other way around, but I haven't really ridden pillion all that much on a motorcycle, so I can't really comment.
And the other thing about having a separated higher seat is that, as I said before, you're much more bent over at that point. So you are in more of a racing position as a pillion.
Yeah.
Which, again, I don't really enjoy as a pillion.
Yeah. It's funny. When we were discussing this video earlier, you mentioned the CBR, and I wasn't really all that keen about talking about the CBR1400RR. Like, obviously that bike is no longer on the channel anymore. I've sold that bike on. But you did come out on a pillion ride on that one once.
Yeah.
And you didn't like that experience, did you?
No, that's why it was only once.
I mean, let me be clear what the CBR is. It's a sport bike.
Yeah.
So as I said in the intro, a lot of people consider this motorcycle to be a sport bike, but the CBR1400RR and by extension the Fireblade, they're very much sport bikes. They're very aggressive, or far more aggressive than something like this is. And yeah, like you were saying, the seat height for the pillion is far higher. One thing to note is that there's no pillion handles on sport bikes. So from a pillion's perspective, they're not going to have anything else to hold on to other than you, the rider. So how did you feel about the CBR?
As a pillion, I did really enjoy the experience. I felt, like you said, there's no handles, so I didn't feel I could hold on to anything. So I was very conscious of, one, holding on to you and trying not to squeeze too tight, but two, I couldn't really brace myself on anything apart from you.
Yeah.
So it wasn't overly comforting from that aspect, but also, as I've said, my legs were much higher.
Yeah.
So I did find myself cramping up.
You are in that squat position, aren't you?
Yeah. Whereas at least here, my legs are a little bit more.
Well, I mean, to be fair, you're still in a squat position on this bike, but it's not as pronounced, is it? It's not as harsh.
Not as aggressive by any means.
No, not as aggressive. So speaking of the CBR, what did you think of the power of the CBR? Because, like, it has about half the horsepower that this bike has, and about a third of the torque. So, I mean, I remember I showed you what it was like, and of course that engine is a screamer. So 15,000 RPM on that motorcycle.
Yeah.
Before it redlines. And you weren't too impressed with that, were you?
No. But again, because of the way that the pillion seat is positioned, the fact there's no handles, it's very aggressive seating position, I didn't really feel safe going at a high speed on it. Whereas obviously if you're the rider, you have way more control, whereas you don't have that as a pillion.
No, of course.
Whereas this one, if you obviously put your foot down, yeah, I'll probably lean forward and hold on to you, but I've got the support of knowing there's a handlebar behind me and I can sit up a bit straighter if I want to, and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. So compare what it felt like being a pillion on this bike when I showed you the power of this bike and when I showed you the power of the CBR. How did it feel on both of those?
Personally, I could enjoy the speed on this bike more than I could on the CBR.
Well, let's not think about the speed, because the speed isn't really a factor in this. It's the torque, the feeling of being thrown back in your seat. That's what I'm referring to with this question.
Right. Yeah, I think the same thing stands though. I could actually enjoy it more on this bike, whereas on the CBR, I wasn't comfortable at all.
I mean, it sounds quite mean, but it's quite funny when you look back at it on the CBR when I said, oh yeah, I'll show you the power of this bike, and I think I was only about 10,000 RPM when you started screaming down the mic.
Yeah, and you couldn't hear me.
And like I think you were saying stop.
Yeah.
But like the problem was that 10,000 RPM isn't where the power band is on that motorcycle, so you weren't really getting that full experience. Whereas, I mean, on this bike the power band is the whole thing, so the whole rev range. But because that's where I wanted to get to, because that's where it takes off. But yeah, screaming down the mic. But yeah, I think the point is that this motorcycle is a much more enjoyable experience with pillions than what you would normally consider a sport bike to be. When you look at something like a ZZR1400, that's a proper thoroughbred sport bike. And yeah, pillions aren't necessarily going to be happy on that. Yes, there are those of you that will use those bikes on the daily for commuting to work and for your Sunday blitzes and all that, but if you're taking other people on the back of it's not going to be that great, I don't think.
But also, typical sport bikes, I don't think are designed with a pillion in mind anyway.
No, of course not. They're not designed with touring in mind. They're not designed with pillion riding in any way, shape, or form. They're all directed at the rider and their experience. Which, for me, is kind of what I absolutely love about sport bikes. They're so aggressive. They're so raw. I mean, I can't really comment on newer sport bikes, newer 600s or anything like that, with all of the new tech that they have in them. But yeah, from that 2004 CBR, I absolutely loved it. I thought it was such a great bike to thrash around, and I love that Screamer engine. So it's a shame that you didn't enjoy that experience. I mean, I get, things like the comfort and what have you are quite important, but just for that raw experience, I would have hoped that you would have enjoyed, the raw experience. But you're not much of a you're not very power hungry, are you?
No, not really. I don't even like roller coasters.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So I mean, again, these are all things that you should consider as a rider when you're taking a pillion. Not all pillion riders like the power. A lot of them will consider comfort and safety more important than power. Whereas for the rider, you'll probably consider the power more as a more important factor on a motorcycle. And this is the thing, that this bike, you can have both. You can have the best of both worlds. You can ride it like a sport bike. You can ride it for that power and that thrill, that excitement. But you can also ride it for a pillion, nice and gently, nice and easy going. You can do that. And I think that's a difficult thing to find in motorcycles, I think. You can't get a motorcycle that is for both sport bike riding and for touring. They're very few and far between. Especially a bike that's got this kind of power. You don't see this very often, and the next stage up from this is something like a Goldwing. But they're great bikes. They're good for riding, they're good for touring, but they're not fun, are they?
That was the first bike I ever pillioned on, was a Goldwing.
Yeah, they're not.
I was about 8.
They're not fun bikes to ride, I don't think. They're not designed with fun in mind. I mean, yeah, you can have fun with them, but it's not like this. You can't get any kind of sport bike-like experiences on a Goldwing. So, I mean, that's why they're in two completely separate categories of motorcycles. But yeah, it's an interesting topic, and a lot of the time, guys especially, they will look at buying a motorcycle because they want that power, they want that fun factor, but they have a girlfriend or a brother or a sister that wants to go out on the bike with them, and it's not really a good experience for them. So, but that's the thing, you can't really buy a motorcycle for a pillion. You have to buy it for you and what you enjoy riding. And if it just so happens to be something that a pillion can also enjoy, then yeah, you've got it. You've got the best of everything. And I think this is what this bike has. It has power, it has fun, it has sport bike looks, it has a semi-aggressive seating position that's still comfortable, and yeah, pillions, it will enjoy the ride as long as you're sensible with it and you're not riding like a yobbo all the time. And that's one thing a lot of people say about this bike, and it's too inviting. The power is too inviting. That they can't control themselves. But yeah, for me, it's really good at everything. So it's a perfect motorcycle for me in the touring aspect of things, but also is extremely good at giving you that fun factor, that thrill factor, for sure. Any closing remarks, Mrs.? Any concluding things you would like to say about the ZZR1400 and what it's like for touring with, or what it's like for pillion riding with?
I can honestly sit on this bike for an hour and be comfortable, and I can just enjoy the ride. I don't have to think about anything too much. I can just hold on and be comfortable.
And you have a bad back, you have bad wrists.
Yep.
And this is still a comfy bike for you to ride.
Yeah, super
for
comfy.
kind of medium distances. I mean, we're just trying to find a place to shoot the intro. We were riding for how long?
Hour and a half.
Yeah, we were riding for a long time, and you did say you were starting to get stiff, but
Yeah.
luckily we found a nice place to shoot the intro. But anyway, guys and gals, that'll do for this video. Thank you ever so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you took something away from this video, and hopefully it's been useful for you, especially if you are out in the market for a ZZR1400. But yeah, fantastic motorcycle in almost every regard. And I know that on our channel we get a lot of ZZR fanboys, but that's not that. It's like you ride this bike and you own one, and it's just the experience that you have. It's a really, really great motorcycle, and it's not a motorcycle that like I've ever ridden before. So it's yeah, it's a really good bike. If you are looking to tour with it, then yeah, you really can tour on a motorcycle like this. So don't be afraid of that. So yeah, thanks again for watching, guys and gals. We'll see you all in the next video. Hope you're all having an awesome day today, as usual. And just to close off the video, I'm going to do a pull, a high-powered pull for you guys, so you can see the reaction of the wife. Because even though she doesn't like lots of talk and lots of power, she humours me every once in a while. So we're just coming up to a roundabout where you can actually do a pull. So let's see how we do. All right, here we go. You ready? We're in second gear, 40 miles an hour. Here we go. Yeah, this guy does want to race. Damn it! This car ruined my fun.